Hey everyone, Connie here, and welcome to the Royal Recap. So, this is a preview for a new kind of recap news thing I'm going to be doing with the rebrand on the channel that is coming up. Uh, just saying off the bat, it will not be a constant, like weekly thing or anything. It'll basically be just when I have some like news or things in the media or the world that I want to talk about, and I feel that it's stuff I should discuss going forward on the channel for various reasons. And this is kind of just a preview thing, so this is just kind of to get the stage set and show you what this kind of thing is going to be. Again, it will not be constant. It'll just be whenever there's something I need to talk about, and I'm going to try to shoot for when there's multiple things to talk about, but sometimes there might only be one or two things. That being said, we're going to get right into it. I'm going to try to keep this as brief as possible, and obviously this will be sorted by chapters on the progress bar, so you should be able to go to whatever you want to hear me mention and discuss. So, first off, first bit of news is that we have Helluva Boss coming back. This is a bit of a minor news compared to some stuff that we're going to talk about, but Helluva Boss Season 2, Episode 2 will be coming this week. And unlike with other releases, this one will be in the middle of the week instead of on like a Saturday or Sunday release. On Wednesday, we will be getting Episode 2. And I've been staying away from any kind of spoilers or storyboards or any kind of info that has been, like, pre-released ahead of the episode. So I don't know pretty much anything about what's going to go on. The first episode of the season touched on the past with Blitz and Stolas and whatnot. I don't know if we're going to continue with that kind of theme into episode 2 or if we're going to move on to some other stuff. I don't know. But I am definitely excited for more, and as usual, I will do an episodic review for episode 2 as soon as I'm able to see it, which will probably be right away on Wednesday. The second thing to talk about is the She-Hulk finale. So She-Hulk Attorney at Law, the newest series from the MCU, has ended. And in my opinion, it was fantastic, but it is very divisive amongst fans. There are some who thought it was too silly, too comical, and just, didn't try to be anything like good in their eyes. However, if you've ever read a She-Hulk comic book, you would know that this series was probably one of the most accurate adaptations in the entirety of the MCU. In terms of the fourth wall breaking, She-Hulk's proclamation of this is her show, and even just a lot of the character traits you see in Jennifer Walters throughout the season, such as even the fact that she is shopping around for someone, for a partner. That is very much an aspect that Jen goes through in the comics. And yeah, on top of that, the finale itself specifically was scrutinized by certain fans because they felt it was like trying to do too much or that it was nonsensical and all. And I think their big issue was the fact that it not only broke the fourth wall, but that was such a major part of it. And it's like, yeah, it was the biggest fourth wall break in the season. But again, this is stuff that happens in the comics. This is how She-Hulk has always been. Basically, these fans are just acknowledging they don't like She-Hulk. And by the way, that's fine. If you don't like a character in a certain series of comics or whatnot, a certain collective, that's fine. But don't try to ruin the fun for everyone else. Don't try to say that the series is objectively bad. You should not say that about anything because that's just not true. And don't try to stop anyone who does enjoy it. I love the finale. I thought it was perfect for the series. I thought it was perfect for the character. And honestly, I thought it fit well. I like actually the jokes they were going for and the kind of commentary they went with by making this season long storyline about her blood being like hunted to create like another Hulk and everything, basically being abandoned in the end, like by like purpose and everything, by having like Jen literally say, "Let's abandon that because that makes no sense and that's not the point anyway." And it's like I like that. I think that's clever. I think that's funny, and again, it fits the concept of the series extremely well. It's the series is what it needs to be and what it promised to be, and it's a again an excellent adaptation of the comics. I, and mind you, there's a lot within the MCU that isn't adapted as accurately, but people still love that. But people, I noticed in the past years, have been clamoring for more accurate comic representation, and then these same people are complaining when they get it because it's not what they want. I think people just are too selfish and don't know what they want. um, but either way, again, you can form your own opinions, and if you don't like She-Hulk or the finale, that's fine. Just don't try to ruin it for anyone else. So moving on, it was announced that G4 TV is shutting down again. So if you were around and watching TV and into video games in the past, you know what G4 used to be. When it was on TV, had stuff like Attack of the Show and X-Play and whatnot, covered big events such as E3. It was a big deal, but it was shut down due to changing times in TV, a lowered viewership rate and whatnot. It just wasn't relevant anymore. But there were certain fans who had been clamoring for it to return, and so, like a year ago, it basically did. Unfortunately, the format was extremely different now because, well, media is very different now. And since the world's in a different place in terms of media and especially video game culture, G4 does not work in this modern age, and especially in the way that they brought it back. The only problem with this is that the way that the parent company shut it down seems to be like kind of scummy, because apparently some people, such as the completionist Gerard, he only found out that G4 was being shut down because of a tweet about it being shut down. He was not actually told he lost his job with G4 otherwise. And there's been talks of stuff like this happening in recent years in various companies, them not being transparent about shutdowns or layoffs or whatnot, and people only finding out through tweets and stuff. And that's really bad business, on top of just being extremely scummy. So, yeah, it looks like G4 is just done. And it honestly, again, it should be. With the way the internet is, with the way video game culture and the entertainment culture is nowadays, it doesn't work. It's not needed. And it's just, we've moved past the time when a network like that works. And it's kind of evidenced by the fact that it wasn't working. The rebooted G4 just was not getting the ratings and the attention, and nobody really cared for it. Because it's not relevant to today's day and age. So, unfortunately, that is a relic of the past we are going to have to leave behind. But, a relic of the past that we are just starting to get back into is My Little Pony. Now, hear me out. For those of you who are not interested, you can skip ahead if you need to. But My Little Pony Make Your Mark is continuing. The fifth generation of the classic franchise from the 80s is going to be continuing strong. We got an 8-episode batch, a chapter, as Netflix likes to put it, just recently for the Make Your Mark series, the new G5 series that continues after the movie and the special that we had before. We're going to get another holiday special in November, and it has just been announced next year there will be multiple new seasons, which I take to mean like release batches, or again, as Netflix puts it, chapters of the series, as well as multiple specials. So next year is going to be chock full of content for those of us who are excited for the 5th generation of My Little Pony. But something to not be excited about is, once again, J.K. Rowling is in the news. Yeah, the raging transphobe, formerly known as a children's author, is going full on guilty until proven innocent when it comes to trans people. And we know that's what she means when she talks about, like, no group should have the presumption of innocence. We know what she's talking about. We know what her focus is on. Because in the recent years, Rowling has gone full transphobe, and that's basically been her entire personality. People have been calling her out. People have been speaking out against her views, and even many of the cast from the Harry Potter movies and Wizarding World franchise as a whole have come out in support of trans people, diametrically opposing the views presented by the author herself. But she has doubled down and has been acting as if this is a kind of way to present her feminism. Unfortunately, as has been pointed out by so many people, feminism that includes trans women is not real feminism. It is performative. And Rowling's performative feminism is very much proving to be just that in a lot of ways. And this guilty until proven innocent mindset is not it. Because let's be honest, no one is siding with her on this. Like, I've been seeing the social media stuff, the tweets, the comments, the posts. This is, like, I think the most united people have been against her in a while. The entire idea of a person being guilty until proven innocent is just, no. It's always innocent until proven guilty. That's the rule of law. That's the just natural state of things. And mind you, like, if there's someone who has been victimized by someone, you definitely always should gear towards the victim, but you should always look for the facts and find out evidence as well. You should never just presume someone is guilty just because of one or two things you hear. You should look into it. Do research. Find out. And in terms of the law, obviously, there needs to be a lot of work put in to determine whether or not a person is innocent or guilty. But innocence should be the natural state until something comes to light that points out otherwise. And so the idea that Rowling is touting, that no one should be entitled to the idea of innocence, is ludicrous. It's stupid. And it's just her newest way to attack trans people because she's a hateful bigot and honestly can fuck right on off. So moving on, we go to another shit show, and that is Rooster Teeth. So Rooster Teeth is in hot water right now because Kaden Jensen, a voice actor and, just employee in general of Rooster Teeth, has left the company and has left some scathing remarks on social media regarding the company's practices, especially towards her, a trans woman, and the derogatory ways that they treated and spoke to her, including using an abbreviated form of an active slur as a joke nickname. Obviously, I don't have to point out what is wrong with this, but the worst part is that Rooster Teeth issued the most corporate apology possible. As someone I saw said it on Twitter, There are so many words here, and yet this still says nothing. And that's what this it wasn't even an apology. There was no apology made. Like the concerns weren't even addressed. It was the most blanket corporate bullshit statement possible. And so many people within the company and out, people who used to be in the company and just in general, have been putting their support behind Caden. And again, even people within the company who, can't leave due to financial security and supporting their families and shit, even they're saying that they still support Caden and everything. And it's become an absolute shit show. And Caden has made it clear that this is the higher ups, the parent company, Rooster Teeth itself, and not the small subsets of people within it. She's even said that there are these certain people and parts of the company, such as Rooster Teeth Animation, that we should continue to support. And that includes such as, for example, the crew bee for the hit show RWBY. It's just the parent company, the ones pulling the strings, the people in charge. They're the ones who are, terrible. The ones who are controlling everything behind the scenes in the worst ways. The ones who gave the insulting nicknames, who did not listen to Caden's HR complaints, and pushed her back and back and back to the side and just out of the limelight in the company, just kind of reducing her role and mistreating her in general after her coming out and everything, and once she started, complaining about shit. And it's terrible. And again, people are speaking out, and people have been speaking out against Rooster Teeth for a long time. Former employees have sent scathing letters and stuff. And yeah, again, as long as you acknowledge it's the company as a whole and not necessarily the specific subsets of it. Caden very much wanted to make clear that you should not blame the specific people working in the crew of these animated shows and whatnot, and it's the company behind them that is forcing their hands and fucking things up. So it's one of those situations where it's kind of up to you with what you want to do. If you think that you can't support Rooster Teeth during this and think it would be best to kind of just boycott them all together and everything they put out, that's completely fine and completely fair. If you think that you can continue watching certain content because of the teams that make it, and you want to still support them and everything, despite, the looming overlords kind of pulling the strings behind them, that's also completely fine. And again, Caden has advocated for that herself. The only opinion that is not okay here is if you are siding with Rooster Teeth in regards to all of this, because that just makes you a trash human being. And talking more about trash human beings, that gets us into our final topic of the day, Amouranth. And no, I'm not saying Amouranth is a trash human being, but her husband surely is. Because Amouranth, one of the biggest female streamers in the world, without question, is apparently married. This took a lot of people by shock because it was never stated before, and it was actually a hidden secret because of her husband. Apparently, her husband had told her to pretend to be single while streaming to gain more viewers. Now, this is pretty messed up, but it's not the worst thing. It's just manipulative and weird. But we find out that he's been doing other things to her. We find out that he had gotten control of all of her bank accounts and social medias and stuff. We find out that he had been actively abusing her. We find out that he's threatened to kill her dogs, to empty out her bank accounts and just take the money just out of her hands completely, and various other things. Too many to list here, but there is a lot you can do by just looking it up on Twitter, honestly. Because it is everywhere right now. Amouranth is a victim of abuse, having been manipulated and controlled by this man for so long. he has been just treating her terribly and manipulating her emotionally, and she's been unable to say anything before now. But it's finally gone out of there, and everyone is throwing their support behind her, as they should. Things are not great for Amouranth. And I'll admit, I knew who Amouranth was, but I didn't like know her content or anything. I didn't like really like ever pay much attention to her. Like there is no real reason for me to check her out. I never had a like an interest there. But I still stand by her. I still support her as a victim of abuse myself. I definitely like side with Amouranth in this matter. And she's provided receipts. She's shown texts of him making these threats. She had him on call and everything. There is evidence. It's not just hearsay. And apparently a stream ended where her assistant came in, and there's talks about her assistant might have been hired by her husband, and asked her about like, are you taking your meds? And she seemed confused. It's like, wait, what are you talking about? And then the stream just really randomly cut off, and people are really worried and saying that like her husband and the assistant he possibly hired might have been like trying to do something, trying to gaslight her in front of the camera and everything. It's a shit show. And everyone again is throwing their support behind her in this matter. The evidence is there, and it's gnarly. It's really bad, and this is just another case out of many where a woman has been controlled by her partner, a male partner. And yeah, it's happened the other way around. And it's happened for NBs and their partners as well. But there's a long history of women being mistreated by male partners and being manipulated and abused like this. It's unfortunately been a common thread that still in 2022 has not been repaired. And we're seeing it firsthand here with just another case of this terrible kind of action. So all we can really do right now is continue to support Amouranth, continue to find out more, and do whatever needs to be done to get her the help she needs. Either to just get away from this man for good, to secure her accounts and whatnot, and to just, be in a much better position than she has been. We need to throw our support behind her in this matter. And no matter what we think of her content or otherwise, like, this is a human being. A human being who is being horribly mistreated and abused. And that's what matters here. So, this was the Royal Recap. Let me know what you think of the idea. And again, we'll probably be doing this again in the future once the channel rebrand goes through. We will be just handling all of the big news once it comes out. If there's multiple things that come out at a time, I'll talk about multiple things. But sometimes it might only be one or two things. And it's definitely not going to be like constant. Like, let's say something comes out, I talk about it, and then something comes out the very next day. I'm not going to make another video right away. I'll hold off on that until I'm ready to make another video. Basically, they'll probably be like a week apart at the very least. But sometimes they might be even further apart, depending on what kind of news and stuff comes out. And again, it won't be for every piece of news. It'll just be for things I want to talk about and I feel like I can talk about. So, yeah. Either way, I thank you so much for any comments you leave below. I thank you so much for continuing to support the channel. And for now, I'm Connie, and I'm signing off. See y'all next time.